I'm with Harriett here, and we're just sitting beside Your Legacy Lives On memorial quilt, and this is a quilt, Harriett, that remembers Winston, your first husband, and was also a quilt that you yourself had worked on, isn't that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Would you share a little of who you are first with us, Harriett?
Well, I was Miller and married Winston, and then he was murdered, so it's my second marriage that I'm in now, so I'm longer married now than I was previous, but anyway, the memories are still very fresh.
So your family, where did you grow up, and can you talk us a little bit through your own, years, your childhood, and then coming up to the point to when you met Winston, and then you set up home together?
I grew up I was born in County Monaghan and moved in, my family moved in 1955, and to Sea area, and actually neighbours of Winston's, the whole family, and we suppose we grew up together, so to speak. So I went off to the civil service and worked in Belfast for a while, but still romance blossomed, and that was it. And
it's almost a form of arranged marriage at that stage.
Well,
the art style, was it?
It wasn't arranged, but we were happy.
Yeah.
So.
And what age were you, do you mind me asking, when you married?
19, over 19, young.
Yeah, very much. Mm-hmm. And then family came along.
2 boys. So, yeah, 2 boys. So then I just worked in Sea school, and was able to care for the boys and be at home and help on the farm and support Winston when he went on duty and keep the farm going, milking and feeding the calves and bringing in bales of hay and just
you weren't afraid of hard work?
Not afraid, no. Not afraid of anything, really. It got quite tense now, right enough. Can't say afraid, but always aware when things got bad.
Yeah. And Harriett, in that area where you were based, there were many friends and colleagues whose lives were stolen over those years in the 70s, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. Harry Creighton would have been the first one in August 72, and Robin Bale would have been the next one. Both people, you knew the people. And Norman Prue, which I knew as well, in 1979. And then Bobby Crilly, 1980. Yeah, so it just went on, and Winston, of course, in February. So life didn't change an awful lot. Life changed, of course, but the farming end of it didn't change a lot because we tried to keep it going for a while. Yeah. But it just got that it wasn't. I just got it wasn't fit.
And what age were the family at that stage, Harriett? What age were the boys?
Well, Keith was 10 and Leslie was 8, so it was 2 years difference in them.
So they were still young boys who, no matter how helpful they would have tried to be, they were still boys that they weren't able to take on that responsibility.
No,
at that
no responsibility whatsoever. I think the milking was the first thing that I gave up. Just got too difficult with too many inspections and keeping the dairy clean and all that. It just proved it wasn't possible financially. It wasn't sensible. Yeah. So that just fizzled out. And anyway, I had my little job in school when I was able to go back to the school. I was back working part-time. It was part-time, it was nearly full-time. It was the office job as well as working in the kitchen. So.
And did you find that helped? Did that help? I mean, it's a horrible way to put it, but to distract to some degree. But ultimately, then in the evenings, you still had to face your own situation, really, didn't you?
Well, of course, anything to be out. Yeah, it did help. And you're always the children. The children are a great distraction. So they are. So, yeah, when you're fit to be out, you're better being out mentally. It helps physically, never mind, but mentally more so.
And when you think back, Harriet, and I'm sorry because I know this is a very emotive issue to be thinking back, but was Winston a very hands-on daddy whenever the boys would have come along and, you know, that joy and would have gone about with them on the farm, or can you recall
yes.
those sorts of memories?
Particularly Keith, the older fella, he was very into the farming. Yeah, but they were young, you see, at the same time, and they weren't really allowed out much around the machinery because it was too dangerous. It's dangerous. Keith would have been the one that would have stole out now. Yeah.
And Winston very proud of them, I'm sure.
Of course. Yeah, certainly. Time that we had, whatever time we had together, it was good.
Yeah.
Because you're working full time or on duty, you know, working and then coming home and doing a bit of farming and that, there wasn't an awful lot of spare time, but...
And can you recall back to did you have any wee bit of family holidays or anything of that nature that you would have done together, or how would you have spent some time together?
Well, we did. We used to go, Herbert Deering had a caravan, and that was back in the 70s. That was great. We went to Port Rush every year in the caravan. So it was family time.
Yeah.
Which was good.
And Harriet, I know that you're someone of faith, and faith has always mattered to you. At that time, you know, was your faith able to withstand you, or maybe you came through a difficult period with faith and trying to make sense of all that had happened?
I always had good faith, even when I was at school. Something, I think, happened to me when I was at school. But Canon Kill was excellent. He was the rector at the time, and then he became Canon. And he was very good, him and Mrs. Kill, obviously. She was always behind him. He used to visit regularly. He used to call into school and see me when I worked at in the school. But it was difficult for him too, you know.
We were hearing that just earlier this afternoon, someone else that we've spoken with today, and they recited exactly the same. Canon Kill was a rock to them in the early days.
Yeah.
And you don't forget people like that.
No. No, he was very good, and sometimes it was the silence that he didn't say. He didn't say an awful lot, but he was there, and he was good. But my faith did bring me through and carried me. Faith's a strange thing because you go away from it and you come back to it. It's always there, but I suppose you lean on it more than other times.
Yeah. I think yesterday at a service there was a reference made by the minister there, and maybe it's a better way of putting it. He said, Christ is always there for you, but your faith can waver at points. But you always know Christ is there.
That's right. Well, that's exactly it. Yeah. I agree.
The challenges then that existed for you after that horrible day, and we should say as well that Winston's friend and colleague Joe also perished with him that day, Joe Rose. Your identity changed overnight because you then were a widow. And did you find that whole transition very difficult? That no longer did you have, you know, that assurance of the team of people you were then the mother and father both, weren't you?
Sometimes, yes, I know I was. It does change, but then I had my in-laws there as well, which were good. My own family, which was good. Good family support. But you do have, I used to say, you thought about something, you made the decision, and you thought about the decision before you actually made the decision. And you had to be very careful. You had to know when your heart was ruling your head was ruling your heart.
Became more cautious.
And just had to think the thing through. Just simple decisions, but you just get, I suppose I'm a practical person anyway, you just get on with life and you just have to deal with it. And
your focus was the boys and trying to keep life as normalised for them as you could as well.
Keeping life normalised, it might sound a bit strange, but in some respects it was more difficult when Winston was living, because there was always that fear. When the terrorist threat was so high that, gosh, you didn't know exactly, and especially after Johnny Kelly was attacked in January the previous year. We were out milking that evening, that night that Johnny was attacked, and we heard the flares. Mervyn heard the flares going up. Winston heard the flares going up, and nothing would do him. But we would go over to Johnny's, and since that happened, you were always more aware that this could be our doorstep.
Yeah.
Next, maybe when Winston was killed, it sort of took some of that fear away. It wasn't going to happen again because he was already murdered. But it changed the situation around. It's strange to say a thing like that.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is that constant living on edge with the fear of it becoming, and when it actually happens then, you almost then have to deal with it at that point, but almost the other was out of your control in some ways, that fear.
It's just, I don't know how, and I still wonder, I often wonder how we lived through it, how we all lived through it, not me, how we all lived through it, and still are seeing. But I put that down to, a good bit of that down to Seth at the same time.
But I think, Harriett, to be fair, for the first 20 years of it all, there was very little around to support you.
There was nothing. There was nothing. But you were, you carried a lot of it around. It was only when, Seth did have a huge advantage because you met other people who had maybe not the same circumstances, obviously not, because we're all individuals, but you knew that you were able to share, or if you didn't share, that they understood you.
Yeah.
Similar backgrounds, from a terrorist background, and even though we carried all those burdens till 1998, the SAF was formed, yet it was like a release then. Or it was like a sharing, or I don't know, it just helped me. I don't know.
Maybe that feeling of the isolationism that would have been up to that point, that loneliness almost, and then maybe being among some people who you felt they can really empathise with this then at that stage, all our folks in the area.
I don't know, because it's really difficult for me, because I married in 1984.
Yes.
Like Seth didn't start in 1998, but because Mervyn was in the uniform as well, you say, I don't know what I was thinking about.
I wanted to say actually, that in life, some women don't meet one good man, and you've met two good men, and you're now married with Mervyn. And was that challenging, that issue of, I suppose, putting yourself out there again to be in a relationship and then to get married again? Did you have fears around because of Mervyn's role and his service? Was that difficult to?
That's why I said to you earlier, you had to. It was so difficult to know when your head's ruling your heart, your heart's ruling your head. It was very challenging. It was not challenging, there was nothing else. There was no comparisons, but it was difficult to make the right decision. But I met and married Mervyn in 13 months. So It just seemed to be right from the very beginning. Meet on the road accidentally. It just seemed right. And like he's not from Clougher, like, so I would never have been in that direction. But we went to Lammas Fair, me and my aunt and uncle, and we met him there on the street. It just seemed to be like that. I don't know how it
Your
happened.
paths were meant to cross.
Yeah, so it just worked out great. But I put a lot of it down to faith as well.
Yeah.
I put a lot of that. I put it all down to faith.
And then you've had further children then, Harriett, then?
3 children. Yeah.
And, when you think of, I suppose, with the days you came through, what would you want for those grandkids, and what would you want for their future?
Certainly no more troubles anyway. No more terrorism. Gosh, you wouldn't wish it on anyone. It's only when you live through it, that you really realise what it was like. Waking up every morning, putting the radio on to hear who was murdered last night. It's a terrible situation.
I think you had said at one point too that in this area you would have personally known, was it 13 or 14?
Yeah. 13 people, yeah. And that's a small area, like.
A small community.
That's Rossley, down to Lisnaskea and Newton Butler, and yeah. But it was bad. And that, as I just say, that was the number of people who were murdered. Then there was the threats and the attempts.
And the displacement, people being forced away from
That's right.
the ground. And
Yeah, so all of that put together, you wouldn't wish it on anyone.
And Harriett, this project that links to what we're doing here, it's titled The Quiet Courage, and the purpose is to really to give voice to the women's experience over the course of the Troubles. And of course some women did serve within the REC and UDR, but more often in circumstances they would have been the bedrock for the male who was serving. Do you feel that women have been given enough recognition for what they actually gave over the years of the Troubles, and often set their own circumstances to the side, and their own wishes and their own hopes and aspirations?
No, but you couldn't. It would be so difficult to measure it. It'd be impossible to measure the amount that women done, because you kept the children, you kept the home, you kept food in, you kept everything going. And particularly, I suppose maybe farming is the occupation that's shared most, kept it going. In some respects, most of it going. We only had a small farm. But those are things that you couldn't be measured. Kept the children, you didn't tell the children that Daddy was going to work or coming home or anything. You got them off to bed quietly and got them out to school, and you weren't putting on any display in front of them, getting the homework done and getting them sorted out for their life.
And Harriett, something like that, you should take immense pride in is how they have grown up, because lads growing up in Northern Ireland at that time were susceptible to a lot of other influences, but you kept them on the right path.
When you say in the rural area where we were, there wasn't that many devices or anything at that time, and 10 and 8, they weren't. Sunday school, really, there wasn't really anything much else for them.
But whenever they come up to mid-teens, they could have been, the anger could have, there would be people that would have liked to have harnessed that if they could have.
Yeah, but they didn't. The boys didn't.
And when you think, Harriett, back on it all, your own needs in all of this, and, as a young woman, do you sometimes feel what different life could have been, or you're very happy and content in the life you have now as well, I guess?
Well, I often think, what would life have been like
Yeah.
if things had have gone on without Winston being murdered? I often think that, but then the past, and we can't live in the past. We have to move forward, and that's the great thing about life. It carries you along, and you got to get along with it, because there's no point in moping about, and that's what the IRA would want you to do.
Yeah.
And you can't lie down under them.
And I know that you today, you're very involved in all sorts of volunteerism within SAFE and the charity shop, but also the church and many other interests. I don't know how you get the time management around it, but giving back is something that seems to be very much in your heart.
Well, I don't really consider it giving back. Because I enjoy what I do, and I get a kick out of it too. I might be an advantage to organisations, but then I like what I'm doing. So I get out of it as well.
And Harriett, I'll just finish up with this last wee question, that I know these memorial quilts that we have within the room here mean a lot to you as well. You were involved with several at the start, and it's a relation of yours as well that is the actual coordinator here, Sonia. So whenever you see the quilts, what do they evoke for you? And obviously there's a patch for Winston on this quilt as well.
I think the quilts were a wonderful idea, that each patch represents a person. I think it's great. It keeps the memory living, and people can look at the quilts and say, oh, was that when that happened? And it brings the person's living with their life forward into the present day when the person reads the patch and the dates on it. But I think they're great. A great exhibit of skill as well. They're all an exhibition, actually, each quilt. I look at them myself and I say, gosh, isn't that wonderful? And look at the way that was done, and the ideas for centerpieces. No, they're all lovely, and I think it's a great idea. Keep memories living and bring them round and show them to other people.
Absolutely.
I love that.